Hello, everybody. Welcome to and welcome back to my channel, Book Time with Elvis, with me, Mark, and I'm joined by the fantastic literate Texan, Randy Ray. How you
Hi,
doing,
everybody.
Randy?
I'm doing pretty good today. It's been a rough. Last week was a rough week, but I'm glad I've come out of the valley.
Yeah, well,
I think I told you before we went. I stayed up all night making videos.
I was going to say you've had a late night and an early morning, so
Yeah, I went to bed at 5:30 this morning. Got up at 7:30 this morning. I take a steroid called dexamethasone. Meth is right there in the name of it, man. And I take it once a week. So every Monday I have all kinds of energy. I sang karaoke at my house for hours yesterday and played my guitar and talked my roommates' ears off. They were like, "All right, Randy, we got to go in the other room now." My daughter came to visit me. She's like, "Dad, I got to go see my boyfriend now because man, I can run at the mouth when I'm on the steroid." Now, Friday, you'd be lucky to get two words out of me all day.
Yeah. And that's just because it wears off, or the energy expended at the beginning of the week has caught up with you?
Both. Yeah, because it does wear off because I only take it once a week. But, it's not real energy either. It's just nervous energy. It's like drinking 2 giant pots of coffee and having them last for 48 to 72 hours. So,
my goodness. Okay.
Yeah. So when it wears off, all that catches up with me. So, I used to have a real specific daily routine. I'd go to bed at 10 p.m. every night, or at least between 10 and 11, and I'd get up between 6 and 7 every morning. Now I have a weekly routine. I sleep 2 hours a night for 2 or 3 days, and then I sleep 12 hours a night for the next 3 or 4 days. But that's just the way it is these days. So get a lot of reading done this month.
Well, that's a good thing as well. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, it really is. I've had a really great reading month.
I mean, we tend to go to bed. I say we, Elvis and I, because he sleeps in the bed as well. Well, he starts off there, and then he just walks around the house and drops in different places. But we go around 7:30 if I haven't got a live or a lesson, and then I read for a bit, and then probably usually by 9 or 10 I'm asleep. But we get up at 4:30 every morning.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Like a rock.
It can be hard. I mean, it's much easier this time of year because obviously it's light.
Well, you're a school teacher too.
Well, yeah. So I guess it's partly a case because I have to walk in before work, and because we go to bed earlier, we have to get up earlier because he can't cross his legs indefinitely. So I do that, but I'm really looking forward to when I move because I think I'll be able to have a better schedule, because I'll be able to stay up later, I'll be able to get up later, I'll be able to let Elvis out in the garden, at 10 o'clock at night or whatever, without having to, it's not so bad this time of year, but in the winter, at 10 o'clock in the evening, you've got to get your winter coats on or head on out there into the freezing blizzards or whatever. So yeah, this way will be better, I think. So yeah.
I saw a video of your new house in the neighborhood, and it's just lovely. I'm so envious.
Well,
when I get well, I'm gonna fly over there to visit.
You really should, man. And I think you'd really like.
We'll have a time.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, unfortunately, big part of the culture here is drinking. However, another big part of the culture is, well, let's say Czech barbecue. Obviously, it might not be a patch on Texas barbecue, but they like to roast the whole animals, kind of thing. That's what we do here. So,
well, we have a town in Texas called West. So it's not in West Texas; it's actually in Central Texas.
Right.
But the name of the town is West Texas, and it's a Czech community.
Oh, okay.
And they have a little truck stop there. They call it the Czech Stop. And the food is just marvelous. And every year they have a Czech festival. And I used to take the kids and the family. And the food was just amazing. And you're not kidding. There was barbecue all over the place and the Oompa Oompa bands. And, I used to be a juggler when I was younger. And so I would run into jugglers that I knew who were professionals and liked to perform and stuff. And my daughters got a real kick out of it because they let me join in, because juggling juggling's like sex. It's a whole lot more fun when there's more than one person involved.
And
Because you see the jugglers passing the clubs back and forth.
I was going to say it also involves playing with balls, but then of course you mentioned the clubs, so
Yeah. Well, I got to be a specialist with 3-ball juggling. I know more 3-ball juggling tricks than you can imagine that there are. And of course, I haven't practiced in ages. That daily practice schedule now belongs to my guitar.
Yeah.
Always gives me something to talk about with Alan Mahan.
Well, they are very musical as well. There's a saying here that every Czech's a musician, and I kind of believe it. Almost all of them, will like walk past the piano and be like, I haven't played in 30 years, but let me give it a go, and they proceed to do something amazing, and it's like, oh, is this
something would take me 10 years to learn? Yeah, there's people like that in Texas too. They're like, do you play the fiddle? And the old man says, yeah, I played a little, and then he gets on there and whew.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I know this one old guy. He loves to play guitar, banjo, whatever, and he invented his own instrument. He invented, what did he call it? Banjolin or manjo?
Okay.
He literally
that's cool.
built a cross between a banjo and a mandolin. Yeah,
that is cool.
Made it himself as well. Yeah, because they can do all this stuff.
Right.
Half the people I know are actually building their own houses, whereas I'm having a company do it. I can barely change a light bulb. So.
Right. Yeah, don't ask me to change the oil on your car or flat even.
Yeah, well, we got.
That's what roads. Well, here in the States, and they probably have them over in Europe too. They have the banjotar now, which is banjo, but it uses all the same chords as a guitar, and you play it just.
Oh, it's coming back. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just have an old-fashioned banjo.
Yeah, I do like the banjo though. I have to say, I really do.
You know what? What's the saying about a gentleman is somebody who knows how to play the banjo but doesn't?
I
dated a woman a few years ago. I always tell her she's the one that got away, but I tell a few of them that. But she was 6'1". She's a yoga teacher, and she plays the banjo. And what a character she was. We had so much fun. But having been sober for 10 years, hanging out in bars doesn't bother me at all anymore. It's not like I'm tempted. I know what Jackie Daniels was the worst girlfriend I ever had. So. But yeah, I've got stringed instruments all over the place here. I've got a ukulele. Hey, Aaron. I've got a ukulele. I've got a bass. I've got a couple of guitars, a banjo. What I really want is to get a 12-string guitar. So, but they're not cheap and they're a pain in the ass. I asked my guitar teacher if I should learn to play the mandolin because that's what he plays professionally when he plays in public. And he said, "Man, you'd hate the mandolin with your thick fingers." He said it's a pain in the ass.
That's something I really wanted to learn. So you need good, slender, thin fingers for it.
It helps with something small like a mandolin because the strings are so close together.
Right, yeah.
So you'd be pushing down on a string, but you'll be touching the next string, which deadens it.
Yeah.
So that's a bummer. But I love it. I was 44 when I took up the guitar, and my guitar teacher expected me to quit. He said 95% of the students I have who are middle-aged or older, they just don't stick with it for more than a month. But I decided when I started, no matter how bad I was at it, I was just going to keep doing it until the day I died.
Yeah.
And I was bad at it, and it took me a year to learn my first song. But I had an actual gig. I've left the house 3 times since February for anything other than a chemo appointment. But I had a gig at a party in front of 50 people. It was my first time to play and sing in front of a crowd. But my guitar teacher accompanied me on his mandolin, and it was just great. I had so much fun. Yeah, playing in front of a crowd's a real rush, and I'm not shy on a microphone, as you might imagine. So yeah,
I get that feeling. I get that feeling. Hey, Jenny.
Hey, Jenny.
Oh, and Mark's here. Hey, Mark. How's it going?
Richardson Reeds is here.
Yeah, I know. We're lucky, aren't we?
It's just turning into a party now.
Yeah.
Well, we've been talking for 10 minutes. We haven't even talked about books yet.
Well,
I'm sorry, my voice is going up and down. Side effect of my medicine. I sound like I'm going through puberty.
Got an image of Randy playing the ukulele while singing "When I'm Cleaning Windows." Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite country songs is called "I Don't Do Windows."
What's
The first
that?
lyric is it ends with "I don't do windows and I won't go to hell for you." It's a great song.
What's the name of that kind of southern? I don't know if it's like a quartet or when you see them where they got like the fiddles and the guy's got the double bass, and has it got a name
Right, right.
that kind of like setup?
Rockabilly,
Maybe, yeah. I'm not
yeah.
sure. I've always seen them in like hoedowns and stuff, and they're all just it's just a group, maybe 5 of them. I don't know, have different instruments, and they're all like hard.
Well, the part of country I'm from, one of the sayings is I like both kinds of music, country and Western. But the real hipster country singers and musicians say I like both kinds of music, bluegrass and Western swing.
Well, all right then. So books, mate. You said you've had a good
Yeah,
reading
what have
month.
you been reading?
So
I have had a good reading month, even though I haven't made a lot of videos. I've been doing a lot of reading, and I've really dove into the horror mayhem event with a certain amount of enthusiasm. So I don't have any of my. I've got my Kindle here. I've been reading a lot more on my Kindle lately.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that's about, but it's just been more convenient for me. But what have I read for horror mayhem so far? So unprepared. But I'm in the middle of Stephen King's new book right now. You Like It Darker? I say I'm in the middle of it. I've got 95 pages left, so I'm about 80% through with it. Man, It's wonderful.
Oh, really?
It really is good. Yeah. I read The Silence of the Lambs.
Would even Steve like it?
No.
Okay.
He might like it if you took Stephen King's name off of it and put someone else's name on it. Don't tell him I said that. He'll get mad at me again.
I'm sure he's not watching.
No, probably not. Yeah, Steve's got things to do. But yeah, I reread The Silence of the Lambs, which was even better than I remembered. Mm-hmm. It was just marvelous. What else have I been up to? I meant to hit some classics really hard, but I didn't get to too many of them. I read Psycho earlier this month as a buddy read with Brandy at the Book Collectic. If you're not subscribing to Brandy's channel, you should. You're going to be, there he is. Steve Donahue is listening. He is here. That's great. I bet he was watching and heard us talking about him and decided to log in right then.
Probably, yeah. It's like the Steve sense picked up, So.
You Like It Darker has a sequel to Cujo in it, which was not expected.
Oh, so it's short stories, is it? Or?
Yeah, it's a collection of 12 short stories. Some of them are longer than others, but so far it's been fantastic. I haven't been able to put it in. Now, there's a few stories that are a little bit, I'm going to imitate Richard Matheson yet again, like in his early short story collections, like Night Shift. It's basically Stephen King aping Richard Matheson, which is fine. I mean, if you're gonna imitate someone, why not Richard Matheson if you're in genre fiction? But there was one story, I was really proud of this. I was reading the story, and I thought, boy, this sure does remind me of Flannery O'Connor. And at the end of the story, he had dedicated the story to Flannery O'Connor. It's like it wasn't just me.
Okay.
Yeah, it was intentional on his part, but I was not expecting a sequel to Cujo. And it was one of my favorite stories in the book.
That's the one about the dog, yeah? I haven't read it.
Yeah, Cujo's the one about the rabid Saint Bernard. It was one of the first Stephen King novels I read as a teenager. Yeah, back when Stephen King novels weren't necessarily 600 or 700 pages long. I recently used scissors to cut up an old magazine, and the bits fell into a random pile on the floor. And that round pile was better than anything Stephen King ever wrote. It surely wasn't better than Salem's Lot.
Oh, probably.
Yeah, Marty Robbins is great.
I liked. I haven't read that much King. I've read Salem's Lot, which I enjoyed.
I love Salem's Lot. That was one of my first.
Misery, I actually enjoyed as well.
Misery's great. Great movie too.
I read the what is it? The I can never get the date right. The Kennedy one.
11/22/63. That's my favorite Stephen King novel.
Yeah.
I went to see him read from that live. It was really cool. Took some beautiful women to that event. I bought the VIP ticket so he could sit down front. And one was a really buxom blonde pinup model and yoga teacher that I knew. and the other was just this really beautiful little brunette with a pixie haircut and stuff. And of course, Stephen King was staring at the blonde because she was wearing something that would attract attention, and we were in the front row. But the little brunette thought Stephen King was staring at her. And who am I to argue? I think he was staring at the blonde. But I was at a party recently with my friend Russell, who is no ladies' man at all. And a friend of mine had brought a friend of hers. She was a former girlfriend of mine, but she had brought this Latina friend with her. And, I like Latina women, I have an affinity for Latina women. And she was smiling at me all through the party, I thought. Turns out she was Russell's ex-girlfriend, and she was smiling at him throughout the party, which was completely unexpected. Because if a woman's smiling in my direction at a party, she's smiling at me. Because she knows I love Stephen King. It's like catnip.
Yeah. I should be reading now, but YouTube lives are more fun, and I love procrastinating.
Aren't they, though?
Steve's been summoned.
Look in the mirror and say his name 3 times.
I'd call Stephen King's books crappy, but that would be an insult to urology.
What I'm hoping is that sometimes Steve's going to come out of his shell a little bit and share some of his real opinions with us. Don't mince words, Bones. What do you really think?
Well, I sent him a link if he wanted to join us, but he's probably working.
Oh, I would love that if Steve joined.
Yeah.
Steve, come talk with us, buddy. Salem's Lot is one of my favorites too. The Dead Zone is really high on my list. And but yeah, you know who hates Latina women? Stephen King. Oh no, he doesn't. Come on now.
Still need to get Salem's Lot. Yeah, it is. It's good. It's worth it, Jenny. Doesn't he?
No, he doesn't hate most women. My daughters think that too. My daughters think I'm one of those old conservative racists who's kind of cute and funny about it, and I'm neither. I'm not a conservative, nor am I a racist. But they went to Texas Women's University, so you can imagine.
And of course,
I told them, I said, here's what I'm looking forward to. I've got to survive 20 years so that I can see what happens when your kids start calling you conservatives.
Yeah, that's the right.
Oh, you know what makes a great double feature with Salem's Lot, by the way, in terms of reading, is They Thirst by Robert McCammon. That was Robert McCammon's big vampire novel where vampires basically take over the entire city of Los Angeles. Oh, and speaking of vampires, I read Interview with the Vampire again, too.
And how was it?
Well, it was better than it was when I was 14. But it started to drag around the third act. The last third of the book, it really started slowing down for me. And I tried to watch the new TV series. And I really like Eric Bogosian, who's, plays the part of the reporter. And, but anyway, it didn't do anything for me. I couldn't finish the first episode. And I'm not going to power through a TV series.
Have you read...
not even a Stephen King adaptation.
Have you read Let the Right One In? The Swedish.
Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it. Yeah, it was a book club pick when I still owned my bookstore. It was wonderful.
I really enjoyed that one.
Both movies were great, too. But the original form was better.
Boston Sanitation recently found a dead body in the compactor of a trash truck. You know who it there, Stephen King. If Stephen King's lawyers are watching by any chance, that's not my opinion, of course. So.
Nor is it mine. We're just reading.
I've never read any Stephen King novels, but I read Everything's Adventure, which I enjoyed. I thought The Road Virus Heads North was the best of those stories. Mark says he needs to find They Thirst.
It was McCammon's second novel. When I started reading Robert McCammon, I was a little snobbish. If you can imagine being snobbish and thinking that Stephen King is just this really great literary force. He's the literary equivalent of Big Mac, let's face it. But my girlfriend at the time, who I'm still in touch with, by the way, we were dating. I was 19. She was really into Robert McCammon. And in those days, 7-Eleven carried novels. And we had a 7-Eleven next to our apartment. So she would walk over to the apartment and buy a pack of Marlboros and a paperback novel by Robert McCammon. And I looked at it and it's like, oh, he's just a cheap second-rate Stephen King imitator. But that's just how they marketed his books. He was way more than that. But it was very frustrating for him. And I think he retired from writing for nearly 20 years. And then he came back and started writing historical fiction detective novels. And I haven't read any of those. But the horror novels that I've read from him are terrific. Swan Song is kind of his version of The Stand, and it's wonderful too.
It's not, I mean...
Steve, what do you think of Robert McCammon, by the way?
I feel I've come across the name recently. It's not the one that Jim was talking about recently with the U-boat. That wasn't him, was it? The U-boat with the zombies?
Yes, that was a Robert McCammon novel.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay. Yeah, I only saw that this week.
Yeah,
I never heard of it before. It's funny.
He's terrific. Really good storyteller.
It's funny how BookTube does that to you. Like, you never hear of somebody, and then boom, they pop up 2-3 times in a week. So we got a couple of comments. They thirst, I need to find it. Robert McCannon's sweet old grandma was strangled in her home. The killer, her dear. Oh my God. Claudia was my favorite character in that book. Can't remember which one that is now. The Spaminator's here. Sup, losers?
Uh-oh. Hey, partner. What's happening?
The Lindbergh baby. Jesus. Has anyone other than Steve read Fever Dream? I hear it's not a bad vampire novel. Book.
I owned a copy and never read it. George R.R. Martin.
Jenny, are you implying you need any other opinion of Fever Dream other than mine? Richardson reads, going to ask Stephen King if he'll take a contract on Steve. Robert McCammon is great.
He really is, isn't he?
I apologize, Steve. Please forgive my serious lapse in judgment.
Eyes on the prize, baby.
Steve, I don't know if you're still watching. You are welcome to join us. I did send a link to your Voxer, but of course
that would be so much fun.
You may have other plans. But so, what else have you been doing, Randy? What other books? Anything else?
Oh, yeah, I've got. Well, see, I usually use my phone to look up my Goodreads account to keep up with what I've been reading because I remember everything I've read, but I don't remember when I read it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of weird that way. But like I say, I did read. Oh, I finished. I'm Thinking of Ending Things. And you know what? After reading that novel, I can see why it was awful.
Oh, really?
Oh God, it was terrible. I'm Thinking of Ending Things was so bad. Oh dear. And it's funny because I was talking with Brandy at the Book Collectic about it, and she had read it 3 years ago and posted a video about it with a review, and it was a non-spoiler review. And I didn't watch her review until after I read it, but it was perfect. I agreed with everything she said about it. So yeah, that was pretty wild. Because Brandy and I don't always agree on everything either, So, but on a lot of stuff we do. She's great.
Yeah, she is. She's really, really nice girl. Yeah, Brandy.
Yeah, she's so sweet. I've got so much stuff on my to be read list. It's not even funny, man.
Well,
because we've got all these events coming up.
Mm.
And this is the best part of what I've got coming up. Okay, so we're doing Book Trek, The Wrath of the Summer of Book Trek, and Steve flirted with the idea, but I don't think he's in, of reading all the Shatnerverse novels. There's 9 of them. It's a trilogy of trilogies, which is, of course, the only thing that it could be, because how else can you honor the greatest science fiction character of all time? But Brandy's agreed to read all the Shatnerverse novels with me. I have a feeling her enthusiasm for this project might wane after she's been through a few of them, though. But then I've also, for Book Trek, there's a trilogy called the Prey trilogy, Star Trek The Prey.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty stoked about it because Brandy's read them before and said they were the best Star Trek novels she's ever read. And as near as I can tell, the premise is that Commander Kruge from The Search for Spock, which is Steve's favorite Star Trek movie, by the way. But Commander Kruge, has a whole family, and 100 years later, his heirs are trying to take over the Klingon Empire.
Mhm.
and there's a cult involved, and there's a giant devil that's bigger than a starship on the cover of one. And I'm really looking forward to tearing into this. And it's set far enough in the future that Riker has his own command. He's commanding the Titan. And anyway, I'm just really excited about it because anything that ties into that. Well, Christopher Lloyd was so great at chewing up the scenery. I mean, really, he was a pretty close second to Ricardo Montalban as Khan as a villain,
Mhm.
And what does it they say? A movie's only as good as its villain.
Yeah,
They say that. I don't know if I agree with it, but they say it.
Mhm. I have to confess, though, for me, Star Trek and these things, they are, I'm not going to say I don't like them. I just don't really know them. I watched, of course, I watched the first series.
Glorious trash.
Sorry?
It's trash, but it's glorious trash.
I enjoyed it as a kid. As a kid when the reruns and things were on, but I never watched any of the others really, like Next Generation. See, I can't even get it right, or Babylon 5, or Deep Space Nine.
Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, these things. Yeah, I did. They were always
Deep
on.
Space Nine and Babylon 5 were very similar, weren't they?
Oh, they're not Star Trek then?
Babylon 5 is not Star Trek.
No, I know that. Yeah, because Sean always gets angry about it and saying it's better. But Deep Space Nine is Star Trek, though, is it?
Yes, and they're both set on a space station, and they both have a lengthy story arc. Which was really unusual for Star Trek at the time. Can y'all see my dog back there in the bed behind me? That brown dog. He's so sweet.
Got mine just here. Hey, Elvis.
That's Brockmeyer. Oh, hey, Elvis. Oh, I don't know what I'd do with that Brockmeyer. He's a little nervous right now because of the weather.
Oh, yeah. Elvis gets like that with the thunder and stuff and wind and lightning and all that. Yeah.
Well, it's been raining forever here.
It's a shame the Federation was eventually destroyed by Stephen King.
Oh, now, come on. Although that might make for some interesting fan fiction.
But you're not on screen, Steve. It's easy to be pulled away. I DNF'd The Stand after a couple of 100 pages. Couldn't put down Swan Song. One of the main characters is a pro wrestler. Of course, I dug it. Does anyone know?
Pro wrestler named Frankenstein, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I talked with Brandy this morning. She's feeling better, yes.
Oh, that's good.
She had a migraine.
Now we need the bean as well to complete the...
bring the bean on to meet up with Brock and Elvis.
Oh, dear. So you seem pretty excited about all that. I mean, I have to say, I was a bit disappointed yesterday, though, in Steve's Live with Greg and Alan, because they went through all the events, and then they missed out one that they are both co-hosts of, which is Summer of Sport, which is one I'm really
I'm excited about Summer of Sport.
Put a couple of sports books out there because it's really underrated, and I hope a few people will give it a go because I think they'll be surprised, although I do appreciate there's a lot on. And I have to admit, I'm actually, even though Summer of Sport was my kind of idea, I'm actually the most excited about June on the Range.
Yeah. I'm excited about June on the Range too.
Have you got
in one of my upcoming videos, I've got a 21 book TBR for June on the Range, which, I'm not going to get through all 21 of those books. One of them is Streets of Laredo.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
Which is 600 pages long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I read Lonesome Dove last year, so it makes sense to read Streets of Laredo this year.
It's funny actually because Steve mentioned a Western yesterday on the live. Of course, I didn't watch it live because it was like.
Was it Streets of Laramie?
Yes, and it was by Peter Field, and it just so happens I have Coyote Gulch. By Peter Field as well, so I'm guessing it's probably the same. I mean, so how on earth does this end up here in the Czech Republic? It's
the beautiful thing about books, isn't it?
I just love to know the stories behind some of them or the people who brought them here. I mean,
right?
It's 25 cents pocketbook.
Wow!
And yet here it is in basically what used to be Czechoslovakia. Yeah, it's weird, really weird. And actually, the funny thing is, there's a huge subculture of country and western and westerns and stuff. There's not far away.
Oh yeah.
There's a whole complex that someone built to be an old western town here. You know, like with the salon,
Right.
and
Saloon.
you know,
How we say it here in Texas.
Things, yeah. Well, yes. Salon.
Well, you know, I have friends who are country western musicians, real country western museums, not like me. And like Bell Watson and Junior Brown is another one. Junior Brown's another one who invented his own instrument, the Git Steel, which is a combination of a guitar and a steel guitar. But they're hugely popular in Germany and stuff, and have been for years. And they make a lot of their money going overseas to perform in those countries, which is amazing to me.
I got quite a few.
I know a lot of country songs on the guitar now too.
I can imagine.
Well, you know, I learned to play guitar so I could seduce women. It's the reason all men learn to play guitar.
I got quite a few of these pocketbooks, though. It's another one. It's not quite a western, I guess. It's a frontier novel of 1812 here. Wild Drums Beat. And then a couple of murder
That's an
ones.
interesting little western book here.
Yeah. Spaghetti westerns,
And just a little plug for one of my websites. SpaghettiWesterns.org is me.
But is that Howard Hughes, the author? No.
Oh, no, it's not the Howard Hughes. Although I'm sure he thinks he is the Howard Hughes, and the other one's the imposter. But no, he's not the long-fingered, ice cream-eating, casino-owning Howard Hughes. No, certainly not. But anyway, that's a great book. It covers a lot of the great ones, and it covers some of the spaghetti westerns that I haven't seen, which is weird since I own a website about spaghetti westerns. SpaghettiWesterns.org.
And it is actually about spaghetti westerns.
Yeah, it's a website about spaghetti westerns. I love the genre.
I have to have a look for that. Hang on,
Especially the stuff that's a little more obscure. Like everybody's seen the Dollars trilogy and Once Upon a Time in the West. Yeah. But I like stuff like Death Rides a Horse is fantastic with Lee Van Cleef. My Name is Nobody is a real fun one. The Big Gun Down is horrific.
You're making me consent to cookies. Hang on.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's all right. Oh, yeah. It is you. Everything's Randy Ray on there. Awesome.
Oh, yeah. It's my website. You know, that's what I do for a living is I run websites on niche topics that interest me. Okay. And that's one of them. That's one of my better domains, too. So
that's pretty
cool. Yeah, this is a neat little book because it's a camera book, and it's got just really nice little descriptions of the movies, who directed them, when they came out, how long they are, the story, and then it tells a little bit about the making of them. You know, each movie gets about 3 pages.
Yeah.
But what I really love are those spaghetti westerns from the 70s because, and I'll talk about this in one of my videos that's going live later today or later this week. In the 70s, they made this shift with the spaghetti westerns where the soundtrack was some kind of soft rock ballad singer who was basically recapping whatever the plot going on screen was. And the best example I can think of is 4 of the Apocalypse, which was directed by Lucio Fulci. And it's a crazy movie. At the beginning of the movie, you know, the bad guys come in and shoot everybody in town except for 4 people. And those 4 people go trekking off across the desert. And one of them is this Charlie Manson inspired character. And anyway, it's absolutely insane, as you would expect.
Jenny asks, what is a spaghetti western compared to other westerns?
Would you like me to field this question?
You may go for that. I do know.
In the 60s and 70s. Well, Italian cinema, you know, there's your artsy Italian cinema, and there's quite a bit of it. But Italian cinema is also known for exploitation cinema. So if westerns are popular, which they definitely were in the 50s and 60s, the Italians are going to make budget versions of western films. And usually what they would do is they would find either a star that was on the rise, like Clint Eastwood, or a star that was on his way down, like Lee Van Cleef. So they could afford him, and he would be the star of the show. And then they would just hire a bunch of locals to play the other parts in the movies. They usually had bad dubbing, and they were usually a lot darker and grittier than the American westerns of the time. You know, a Clint Eastwood western like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Very different experience from The Searchers with John Wayne. Even though The Searchers with John Wayne might be the darkest movie he ever made.
But it's not. It is a Hollywood movie, though, isn't it? It's not a spaghetti western.
Yeah, The Searchers is John Wayne didn't make any spaghetti westerns, but
no, he didn't.
But yeah, like the Dollars trilogy, A Fistful of Dollars for a Few Dollars More, and The Good, and Bad, and the Ugly. They were all spaghetti westerns directed by Sergio Leone, who was brilliant, but was also crazy, from what I understand. He actually thought that someone would literally give Clint Eastwood's character a nickname of Blondie. Or that Americans just said things like, "Duck, you sucker," as you know, it was just a common thing to say in the Old West, apparently, according to him and stuff. But yeah, great director. The visuals are just amazing. Once Upon a Time in the West starts with this 10-minute long sequence with no dialogue where they're waiting at a train station, and it's just incredible.
It's funny though how the Europeans really embraced it, because over here, I don't know if it was done by West Germany in collaboration with other communist places, or whether it was East Germany in collaboration with other European countries. But the Winnetou stories were extremely popular here, and they had their own films that they put out. And I believe at least some of the actors were like European, like non-English speaking Europeans. I can't remember, but everyone always mentions them. When I mention Westerns, everybody here mentions them. And the author, because they are a series of books, although it's not so easy to get hold of them, there's a guy called Karl May, who was a German man who went out to America and experienced, meeting Native Americans and life in the West. And then he came back and wrote all these cowboy books and stuff about it. But at the end of the 19th century. But as I say, it doesn't seem to be something so big outside of like Central Europe. Yeah, but it's kind of amusing, I suppose. We've got a few comments to get through. Summer of Sport, I completely forgot. Debs is here. Hi, Debs. Really looking forward to Summer of Sport and June on the Way, and the Wrath of Summer and everything else. Aaron will be taking part in Summer of Sport with a Dick Francis read. Streets of Laredo is apparently not Steve approved. So
no, it's not. He and I have discussed it.
Reading The Three Musketeers now, I need everyone to nerd out with me about how much fun that book is. Yes, it is. It really is. I read it last year, actually. I read the Lars Ellsworth, is it? No, Lawrence Ellsworth translation, newer one. It was pretty good. As a Texan, aren't you living June on the range like every day, probably?
Well, to a certain extent, living here at Driftwood Ranch and stuff, my cowboy hat's sitting right over there. If I'd known I was going to get teased about being a Texan, I would have worn it for the video. But I do wear it for...
I remember my time in Texas with enormous fondness.
Oh, I'll bet you were a hit in Texas, Steve.
I think that was behind the old Odeon Cinema in Austin. I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Steve lived in Austin, Correct me if I'm wrong.
Randy, have you read the novelizations and sequels based on the Dollars trilogy?
No, I haven't, but I would love to.
Mm-hmm.
Some of my favorite August reading are the Dirty Harry novels. There were 13 of them.
Mm-hmm.
A Town Called Bastard. What a great name. I've got a title for a spaghetti western novel that I've never written. It's called The Man from Armageddon. Which I still think that's a terrific title.
And is that Armageddon, New Mexico, or Armageddon?
Oh, it'd have to be Armageddon, Texas. Probably out there in the Panhandle.
But it sounds like something one of those old timers would say. But they're actually saying, Armageddon out of here. Armageddon out of here. Yeah, there we go.
Like that movie. What was it? Argo. F yourself.
Yeah. The music in those movies was incredible. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, big time.
Oh, okay.
Django's a really good spaghetti western, by the way. The original Django. I don't know if you've ever seen it or not, but it stars. Oh, who was that guy who played Lancelot in the movie version of Camelot? French fella. I think he's a French fella. The character's French. Lancelot, but maybe the actor's not. But at any rate, Django's great because this guy is wandering around in the Old West and the spaghetti westerns, can sometimes be very muddy, but he's carrying this coffin around with him everywhere he goes. He just drags it behind him, and everybody keeps asking him, what's in the coffin? He won't tell anybody, but eventually when you find out, it's pretty cool. It's a great movie.
Anita, obviously from this part of the world, I suppose.
Franco Nero.
Central Europe. Oh, Nero, okay. I really miss that people don't talk about Karl May when people talk about Westerns. He was one of the biggest Western book writers here. Yeah, so I gathered, absolutely. I mean, I can buy his books really easily here, but they're all in Czech or German. I could probably read some of the German ones maybe, but not necessarily the Czech ones. Deb says, got a load of Zane Grey for June on the Range. Didn't realize he also wrote baseball books. Yeah, so you can use him as a double up for both events.
Arthur Conan Doyle.
Yeah, well, very, very.
I have a book of short stories that are all about one of two topics. They're either about camping or boxing, both of which are sports.
Now, could a study in Scarlet be a Western?
It's half a Western, that's for sure.
It is half a Western. It is, isn't it?
It really is, yeah, for sure.
Look at your dog there.
Oh, hamming it up for the camera back there, aren't you, baby? I don't know what I'd do without that dog. We cuddle every morning and every night. Best part of my day.
No, I completely agree with you. I got a few of those classic books though, or whatever. These, they're not like worth anything, of course, but it is fun to have them. This one's got a good cover.
Oh, nice! I like it.
And then it's not. I love the font. Sorry,
I like that font.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, this one, it's not the most exciting cover, but I really like the book, so I was glad to get an older version of it, which is one of the second Charlie Chan. Is it second Charlie Chan? Third? I'm not. Third or second?
I remember.
It was great. And then The Far Command, 1902, a stirring novel of Americans in the Philippines. And then one I'm really proud of was this one.
Oh, nice. The Pocket Book of Western Stories.
Yeah, it's got quite a few on here. Some I don't know. I mean, obviously, Max Brand, I know. Charles Russell, I don't. W.C. Tuttle, Bret Hart, yes. Zane Grey, yes. Van Tilburg Clark, he did the Oxbow incident, I think, which I'm also reading. Mark Twain's in there, and Luke Short, and a few others. But yeah, it's pretty cool. They're nice. They're nice little things. These. Hope they hold up for a reading.
Yeah, that's the trick, right?
Yeah, for sure. But it's but they're really very cheap. Yeah, they're like £1 or something, or $1.50 or something. So you can't go too wrong, I suppose. So you've mentioned Star Trek, you've mentioned June on the Range,
Summer of Sport,
yeah.
So I've got books for Summer of Sport lined up. Yeah. The Natural, of course, but I've got a novel over here.
Are you reading that with the group?
I am, yes.
Yeah.
That's my intention anyway.
Yeah.
But I've got a book called If I Never Get Back, which is a novel about a guy who travels back in time. And basically the time travel device is the same as the other really famous time travel novel, where he just visualizes what it would have been like then, and then he travels through time. But this guy winds up playing baseball professionally in the 1880s. And, I knew the rules were different then, but I didn't know the specifics. And it's so much fun watching him adjust to the rules, because they didn't have bunts then. And the first time he bunts the ball, everybody's like, man, that was a cheap trick. Don't you ever do that shit again, And anyway, I started it and then got distracted. I saw something shiny, and but I'm going to read it all the way through for Summer of Sport. And I've also got Beartown by Frederick Backman here.
Oh,
which, yeah. I guess it's a hockey novel.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then I've got a book about the making of Bull Durham, which is my favorite baseball movie. Last year I read For Love of the Game and really liked it. So, but Bull Durham wasn't based on the novel.
I've got Shoeless Joe by Kinsella. Is it? That's what I want to read.
W.P. Kinsella. Yeah, I've never read that.
I've forgotten the name of it. Oh gosh, it's a film with Richard Harris. It's about rugby league in England. It's gone completely out of my head. And then
you had me at Richard Harris, though.
I wanna read the biography of Emil Zatopek, yeah, because I have he's a big hero here. So I've got a biography of him to read, and then a few other things. I've got a few. I think I've got a couple of Louis L'Amour boxing ones, short stories anyway, and then a few other things. But I haven't really compiled my list yet. I really need to. It's going to bother me. I have to check what that is. That film and book. It's on the tip of my tongue.
Right. I know that film.
This Sporting Life. That's it. Yeah. This Sporting Life. Yeah. So that would be good. And then a few other things, of course, but I don't want to overdo it. I'm going to stick to just maybe one or two over the 3 months. 1 or 2 a month over the 3 months. So I don't know if 3 Men in a Boat counts for a reread. I mean, they do kind of, go down the Thames, but I don't know if that's really sporty. But
it's sporty if you want it to be sporty. We get to categorize these ourselves.
Yeah, well, there is some of that. That's true. Now, Jenny's got a question for you there, Andy. Will you read all 3 Beartown books?
Well, it depends on whether or not I like the first one, but I would imagine I generally like Frederick Backman, so I don't see why I wouldn't read all 3. I might just have the first one, but I'll probably get the other 2 on the Kindle someday when I can afford it.
And I think for August, Aaron says I might try to find a book about the Black Sox scandal to read.
Ooh, that'd be good.
Now,
I saw the movie about that. There was a 8 Men Out, great movie, directed and written by John Sayles, I think. But yeah, 8 Men Out's a really great movie about the Black Sox scandal.
Was that the one that involved Shoeless Joe Jackson? Because he was in some scandal, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember from Field of Dreams, which I also liked, because I know.
Love Field of Dreams.
I actually used to like Kevin Costner. I mean, they were talking about in their live yesterday with Steve, Greg, and Alan, talking about Dances with Wolves. Being a good movie.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
And nobody talks about it. But I don't hear people talk about a lot of these old these good films, like unless it's kind of. Well, I suppose if you did top 10 baseball movies, you're gonna get Field of Dreams and Bull Durham and Major League.
Major League for sure.
Mr. Baseball with Tom Selleck because he heads off to Japan. Good fun that.
There was one about Lou Gehrig that everybody really likes, The Pride of the Yankees, which I didn't like. I generally like old black and white movies, but Gary Cooper plays. Lou Gehrig in that movie, and it just left me completely bored and shrugging my shoulders. I don't know why. Well, I'll tell you a funny story about Kevin Costner. So in my teenage years, as most Texans do, I worked at the local Dairy Queen. And the woman who owned our Dairy Queen was a woman named Jill Turntouch. Wonderful lady. She's one of the sweetest people I'd ever met. But she was a widow because her husband died at the Dairy Queen. Oh. Because in those days, you would wash the grease off the floor with the hot water hose, and you would have to turn off all the breakers. And if I understand it correctly, he missed a breaker or something like that and electrocuted himself. So she got this huge life insurance settlement, which she spent making that Dairy Queen into the nicest Dairy Queen in the state. And I got to work there. And Jill, had her little hobbies and stuff. And in 1987, you didn't have the internet. And so she was president of the Kevin Costner fan club for Texas. They had presidents for every state that kept up with that sort of thing. And when one of the perks of being president of the Kevin Costner fan club was she got to drive Kevin Costner's wife around in Dallas one day.
Oh, brilliant.
But Those were the days of fan clubs, weren't they? I tried to join a fan club a few years ago for Ken Faree, the world's greatest zombie killer. He's the tall black guy in the original Dawn of the Dead.
Uh-huh.
And anyway, I joined his fan club. I never got any of the stuff that he was supposed to send me. I was supposed to get a little membership. I can't believe it. At 40 years old, I'm trying to join the Ken Faree fan club, and I was.
Oh, you left that part out. You were 40. Okay.
Oh yeah. Well, it wasn't that long ago, But I didn't get any of the stuff. I didn't get my T-shirt or anything. Ken Faree, if you're watching, you still owe me. Watch him log in and start typing now, like Steve did.
Yeah, that would be something. I don't think I was a member of any real fan clubs. Maybe the only one was Dennis the Menace fan club, but that was the the English Dennis the Menace, not the American one. It's the same kind of idea, but it was from a comic called the Beano, and I was a member of that fan club and did get some stickers and badges and like books or something, which was great. But yeah, I don't think I joined any others. So I think, what have we got here? Dance with Wolves is one of the very few westerns I've actually seen that wasn't a remake. The Water Boy is the only sports movie I ever enjoyed. Well, it's
an enjoyable movie.
It's fun.
And it has Jerry Reed in it. It's one of my favorites.
Which one's he?
Jerry Reed is the evil coach.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He's a country western music star. He sang Eastbound and Down and was in all those movies with Burt Reynolds.
Now that's a funny series. I don't know if you watched Eastbound and Down. I love that.
Oh, I love Eastbound and Down. Anything that guy touches just makes me laugh so hard. I'm watching The Righteous Gemstones right now, and I just cannot stop laughing. Danny McBride is just a complete genius.
Yeah, it is funny. Have you seen that, Your Highness, the movie Your Highness, when they go?
Oh, yes.
Brilliant.
Oh, yeah. If it's got Danny McBride in it, I'll watch it. He is hilarious.
Yeah, I just love the whole thing with it's Texas, isn't it? Eastbound and Down.
Texas? Yeah. Texas, somewhere in East Texas or something. Will Ferrell's cameos in that is just came completely out of nowhere too. Yeah. I was not expecting to see Will Ferrell as Ashley Schaefer BMWs, but God, what so funny.
He's got another one with that. Is it Walton Goggins?
Walton Goggins, Vice Principals.
Vice Principals, yeah.
Vice Principals. Walton Goggins steals the show, though, man. Walton Goggins is a genius. He's terrific. Yeah. He plays Uncle Baby Billy in The Righteous Gemstones, and he's hysterical.
Yeah, because it's quite good that versatility. Because he was in The Shield, and there was nothing much hysterical about that,
Also, Justified. He was the big bad guy in Justified.
Yeah,
and very convincingly.
Yeah, no, he's a good actor, that guy. Yeah, but I suppose there's a lot of things for you to watch, isn't there? With all the events to marry them up, you've got westerns to rewatch, you've got Star Treks to rewatch, you've got.
I don't think I'm gonna have time to watch TV and keep up with my reading. There's no way.
Do you do audio?
Much as I would like to. I have a bunch of stuff in my to be watched video file. There's something that Steve keeps recommending. Boy Destroys World or Boy Hates World or something like that.
I don't know. I think it's by Stephen King, whatever it was. So.
Yeah, the latest Stephen King adaptation.
Do you do audiobooks at all, Randy?
I used to do audiobooks when I was still able to drive myself to and from chemo, but I don't drive anymore. And usually I just wind up, anybody who wants to ride with me wants to talk. So I don't get to listen to audiobooks anymore. When my arm was broken, when I first got cancer, I found out because my humerus just snapped one day, but I couldn't hold a book, not and turn the pages. And so I listened to audiobooks while I was in the hospital. But now they have these devices where you can buy a device to hold your Kindle, and then there's a little remote that you buy with it that turns the pages. So you just sit there clicking on it like it's a morphine drip, and you don't even have to hold the book, which to me sounds like a way better future than being plugged into some kind of virtual reality.
Yeah, I suppose it'd be kind of cool if you could almost like in the future have like these hologram ones that just appear and you just literally just
Oh, even better. Yeah.
swipe. That's what you got to do. Just turn the page. So,
There we go. Yeah.
or maybe just blink. Wink one eye
Right.
to turn that way and. What we got here? Just a couple of comments there. Ariane's here. Hi there. Popped in at the right
Hey,
time.
Aaron.
Is amazing, and the book
Yeah, he
Randy,
really is, isn't he?
is Let the Boy Watch, probably.
Let the boy watch. No, you let him watch. You remember that scene, I'm sure.
From which one?
From Eastbound and Down. Ashley
Eastbound and
Schaefer's
Down.
sharing a story about how he's making love to his wife.
Yeah,
And his son walks in and she tries to run him off and he just, no, let him watch.
Yes, I remember. Now,
so crazy.
Is Deliverance a sports movie? The canoeing.
Deliverance is a great movie. There's no getting around that.
Can you
That's
play
on my
that?
TBR.
Can you play that on the banjo?
You know what? My guitar teacher can play it on the guitar.
Uh-huh.
And has tried to teach me, but I always get distracted and want to learn something else. So.
Don't worry, I'm not getting a banjo. I just
dueling banjos. That's what that's called.
Elvis's boy landed in the wrong place.
That boy from Deliverance that plays the banjo is still alive, and he's an old man now. And I think he has health problems and financial problems like I do.
Uh-huh.
But I just read a news article about him the other day. But yeah, Deliverance is a really interesting movie.
I mean, John Voight's still alive.
Oh yeah, John Voight's still alive. Of course, Burt Reynolds is dead. Is Ned Beatty still alive? He might be.
No.
I don't think so.
He died a few years ago. Not that long ago, though. He died in 2021.
Okay, yeah, he's pretty old. I loved him in Network. Network's one of my favorite movies. Big William Holden fan.
I can't get over seeing some of these guys, though, who are still alive. Like, I saw Gene Hackman the other day. He's like 95, completely unrecognizable, but, still around, still kicking.
I wish I looked that. I hope I look that good at 95, but I suspect I won't. I wish I looked that good now. Gene Hackman's holding up now.
Yeah.
Of course, William Shatner. I mean, I've never seen anybody look better in their 90s than William Shatner. It's amazing. Absolutely mind-boggling.
And he's with it, like totally, like his movements.
Oh, he's completely lucid. He's a nut job, but he's completely lucid.
Dick Van Dyke.
When I was in the hospital last time.
Oh, go on.
When I was in the hospital last time, they had me on the hallway with the mental patients for some reason. Not because I was having mental problems, but for some reason I was. And there was a woman in the room next to me who was giving the nurses hell constantly. And I remember the nurses asking me if they wanted me to turn on the TV. I said, no, just leave my door open so I can listen. And so this old woman was telling the nurse, she said, look, I shouldn't have to answer 5 questions every time I want a Dr. Pepper. You should just bring me a Dr. Pepper or a ginger ale if you're out of Dr. Pepper or a shot of whiskey. But I am lucid.
Was she the same woman that was packing?
She had an arsenal with her. She had like 4 guns and 2 or 3 knives. Yeah, I was just lying there in bed one afternoon, and these 5 security guys come rushing by me in the hall. And they told me later that they were confiscating all of her weapons. Oh.
Only in Texas, right?
Well, and then there was an old man on my floor who escaped and had made a run for the helicopter in the parking lot. Because, they have a helicopter for people, who are having a heart attack or whatever. And it was raining, but he made it to the helicopter. And, part of me was just thinking, God, what if they had left the helicopter unlocked and he took off? And it turns out he was a helicopter pilot. What a great short story that would make,
Yeah, see, there
Guy's
you go.
got dementia, but he's taking one last helicopter flight,
There you go. That's what you're going to write when you're better. Publish. Nice short story there. Yep. I find that as well. I don't know, because I think like a lot of booktubers, I always wanted to maybe be a writer, perhaps, or I never put any real effort into it. But I do find now that I can just be somewhere random. I could be, I don't know, in the bathroom, I could be in a cafe, I could be, and suddenly something comes to me like, that would make a great short story. And I do write them down. I just write down what the idea is. Like, I'm gonna leave that there and come back to it someday. Of course, I haven't yet, but it is really weird how it just grabs you. It's like, what? Yeah, that could be really good. So. Anyway, mate, we've done the hour. So shall we call it?
We've done a great hour. This was wonderful.
Yeah, it was great. Nice to have you, back on, get to show your face. But of course, people will be pretty tired of your face after the next few days, though, I reckon, right? You've got a few videos.
I'm sure if I post a video every day, I'm never going to be as prolific as Steve Donahue with his. Oh my God! The other day, I think he posted 6 videos. I'm like, gee whiz.
Nah.
But on Mondays, I sleep like Steve. I sleep for a couple hours a night on Mondays. So I get a glimpse into his lifestyle.
So there we have it, folks. Thank you so much for popping into this short notice live. It was only going to be an hour or so. We both got things probably we have to do. I just wanted to fill the time.
Good to see everybody.
Thank you, Randy, for coming along. And we'll
thank
see
you
soon.
for mentioning it.
Pleasure. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye, folks.
Oh, oops. I almost left the studio instead of ended the stream. Hang on. Bye.
Bye.